Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I made 10 different designs all from the same base, and I'll show you how you can design your own too. It's a super versatile base and it can be used to fold all sorts of different stuff, and it's also really easy to fold. So if you've always wanted to design something but you've never tried it, or if you've been designing for a long time and just need some new ideas, this is a great option. Just modifying existing bases and turning them into new designs is a great way to dip your toes into the designing world. It's the base from Satoshi Kamiya's design called Splash, which is this swan taking off from the water. It's a really cool design, and it's in his first book, The Works of Satoshi Kamiya. It's an amazing book with a ton of great designs in it, so I highly recommend purchasing this book. But in there, he actually does mention using this base to design different models for yourself. He gives the suggestion of a person folding a giant crane, but there's endless possibilities. So I've just been calling it the Splash base. I'm pretty sure he's the one that came up with it, but it's a pretty simple base, so it's possible that someone else used it before him. But it's a really cool and unique base. It's basically just a big square, and then it has these color changed pleats sticking through the middle. So if you just get creative, there's a ton of different stuff that could be folded from this. So in this video, I'll show you how to fold the base, and then I'll show you the 10 designs that I came up with, and I'll explain how each of them works. Then I'll give you a bunch of tips on how you could design something new for yourself. But we'll start by making the base, so let's get down to folding. Now I have just a 7-inch sheet of Kami here, but it depends on what you're trying to fold for what size of paper you'll need. But just to learn how to fold this, any size of paper will work. Now I'm going to fold this so that the red side is the square, and then the white side will be the pleats that are sticking through it. To do that, we'll start with the red side down, then we'll valley fold in half along the vertical. And then unfold. Next we'll take this bottom left edge and bring it into the center vertical crease. Do the same thing with the bottom right edge. Then turn the whole thing over. Next, we're going to bring this bottom right edge into that center vertical crease, but as we do that, we'll allow the flap to swing out underneath. Then repeat that on the left side. So next we're going to make a swivel fold over here. To do this, we're going to bring this raw edge into this center vertical, and then we're only going to crease it down to where this edge is, and then we'll form a new crease that runs from this point out to that intersection. I'll start this out and show you what that looks like. Bring that raw edge into the center. And then you only need to crease this down to where this crease is, what used to be the edge. And then once you have it there, we're going to start at that crease intersection and extend it out to where this point is. It's easiest if you start the crease from that point and look at where that crease intersection is. You can start it just a little bit, and then if you just fold that flap up, that crease should fall into place. Then repeat that on the left side. Next, take this flap right here and swing it over. And then we're going to take this edge on the right and bring it into the center vertical. Crease through all the layers and then unfold. Then you can bring the flap back and repeat all that on the left. And right now this upper portion is divided into eighths. can open that up and show you. We have 8 equal sections up top. Now if you're going to need one that's divided into 16ths or 32nds, I would usually do that right now before I start to sink the edges. But I'll show you that in just a second. Right now I'm going to show you what it would look like when it's just divided into 8ths. We just need to turn this crease into an open sink. So we just open that up. Form all of these as mountain folds. And then sink that whole flap. Just like that. And same thing on the right side. Next, we're going to turn it over. We're going to fold this flap down as far as it goes. Next, we're going to take this edge on the right and bring it up to this crease right here. And we only need to fold between these points. You just stop when you get to the center, just like that. And the same thing on the left. And then we can fold this back up and turn the paper over. And now we're going to open these layers up, and we're going to open it up towards like this. And then we're going to fold up along this crease that we already have. And then using these pre-creases, we're going to fold this flap so it's pointing straight up. So reform the pleats. And then utilize those creases that we made in the last step and close everything up. And then we can open that out. It should look like that. And that is our completed base. Now this is the basic base. You could use this to fold some things, but most likely you'll end up needing more pleats than this. So I'll show you how to do that. Most of the ones I folded used at least 16 pleats up top. So we can unfold this to here, and you could do this by dividing this whole section. But usually how you fold this, you're going to do this at a sooner step. So I'm going to unfold all the way back to here. So usually right here is when I would divide each of these in half again. So I'll show you how to do that. You would just fold the edge into the crease. And then you could form that crease and bring it into the center. Just like that. And do the same thing on the other side. Now there is a more accurate way to do that. You could unfold it all the way like this and then make each of the creases in advance. Then you could make them going the correct directions so you don't have to reverse them as you're sinking. Takes a little bit more time to do it that way, which is why I usually do it the way I just showed you. Especially if you're just testing stuff out, I always go the faster way. But sometimes when I'm making the final model, I'll go the slower but more precise way. But now right here, we're gonna do the same thing we did before, but this time we'll need to sink in and out a few times. So this will all just be open sinks. We form that first layer as a mountain fold, and then the whole next layer will be valley folds. And same thing on the other side. I didn't do that super cleanly since I had to unfold it and refold it, but wasn't too bad. I'll just open this up here, just like we did before, and point this straight up. This is the basic base I used to make 3 of those designs. So I use this to fold the Loch Ness Monster. Also the log with the leaves coming out of it. And the whale fluke. So for the Loch Ness Monster, basically just made a crimp for the head. Just gonna crimp it over about like that, and then use these flaps to make a color change. But basically just made this into a flap and made a little color change for the eye. Won't show you exactly how to do that, but you could probably figure it out. And then to make the whale fluke, I had to just turn this area into 2 flaps. So to do that, I just did an Elias stretch. So find where it's about halfway, and then do a simple Elias stretch. If you don't know how to do an Elias stretch, I'll open that up so you can see the creases. And then just from there, it's just shaping to turn it into the tail. And then to make the log with the leaves coming out of it, it's the same idea, but just with a longer Elias stretch. So I'll just open that up and turn that into an even longer stretch. We've got 2 long flaps sticking up. I'll open that up again so you can see the creases. But it's just a long Elias stretch. And then you just shape that so you have the two leaves up top. Do it really quickly here. Not sure if this is how I did it for my official fold, but I'll just do something so it looks like leaves. About like that, you get the idea. And then I just rolled this all the way around. And you can see how that would work. And I guess I forgot to mention each time you typically have to hide these little white parts that are right here. You just fold those behind. So just showing some really basic techniques. I've already shown you how you can make at least 3 designs. But using those techniques, there's tons of possibilities already. Now I have one that I haven't messed with at all over here. I'm just going to open this up and show you how all of the creases work here. And up top, I've actually added more grid lines. Just to show you if you know some basic box pleating. Up top, we basically have a 5 by 16 grid. So this is the section that's sticking up from the square that you have to work with. So if you know how to use box pleating, you can just use this grid right here to design whatever you want. And then when you fold it all up, that will be the part that's sticking through to the other side. So you can see there's the 5 sections that are sticking up there. Now, if you want to make something more complex, all you need to do is increase the number of pleats you use. So this one is pleated into 30 seconds. And I also made the full grid on this so you can see. So this grid here is a 32 by 11. I ripped the paper here, but it doesn't really matter since I'm not folding anything with this. But you can see with a 32 by 11 grid, there's a ton of space to design things with. That's the one I used to fold the polar bear, a rock climber, a dandelion, and a crane deer. And this little guy on a cube, but I'll go over that a little bit more in the next section. But all of those were folded just from this base. So that should already give you a lot to work with, but I'm going to go over each of those a little bit more in depth. So I have each of my 10 designs just kind of piled up here. I'm going to go through each of them one by one and explain how they work. So this group of 4 right here is folded from the base that has the pleats divided into 16ths. And I already went through a few of these in the last section, but I'll explain how each of them works again. So this was the Loch Ness Monster. Basically the flap is just poking straight up and then make a little crimp fold for the head. And then using the corners of the paper, you just make a flap on each side. So there's a little color change for the eyes. So nothing too crazy there. Then this caterpillar on a leaf is made basically the same way, just with different shaping. So you just have the long flap poking up. Then just crimp it over to the side, and then just a bunch of little pleats that make the sections of the caterpillar. And then you shape the square into a leaf shape. And then these next two we'd already gone over, but it's the same thing. So the whale's tail just has the small Elias stretch up top that gives it the 2 flaps for the tail. And then the log with the leaves coming out just has a longer Elias stretch, but they're both done basically the same way, just shaped differently. And now this ant on a leaf. For this one, I divided the pleats into 24ths. That way I was able to get some nice detail with the 3 sections on the body and then all 6 legs and both antennae. So really just using some basic box pleating for the ant and then turning the square into a leaf with some pleats. Now these next ones over here were all done by dividing the pleats into 30 seconds. So this one is a little rock climber. I didn't really finish the shaping, I just kind of got the idea out, but I think it looks pretty cool. Use that same concept but with different colors, and it could be someone crawling across a desert, or there's lots of stuff you could do having a person coming out of that end, such as this, which I just used a similar technique but then turned that person into a little guy that's meditating, and then folded the square into a cube. I really like this one a lot. I was just trying to find new things to do with the square. And then this one right here is a crane that has antlers like a reindeer. I call it a crane deer. But up here where the antlers are, that's the pleats divided into 30 seconds, and then just using box pleating, you can make all the little different flaps here. And then just take the whole square and fold it into a crane. There's probably a lot more ideas that could be done by turning the square into a crane. And then this one, I just made a little dandelion growing out of the grass. It was a pretty simple idea where the pleats meet the top edge. I just turned that into a bunch of equal-sized flaps, and then wrapped a layer around to keep the stem green. Then my favorite out of all of these is the polar bear on an iceberg. This did get squashed a little bit. I had shaped it a bit better than this, but then I accidentally set some stuff on top of it, so it's a little more wrinkled now. But using just the pleats divided into 30 seconds, I was able to get a whole polar bear with all 4 legs, ears, and the snout. And then he's also on this iceberg. So I was really happy with how this one turned out. Now, it's fairly simple box pleating to make this. I didn't draw a crease pattern up for it first, so I just kind of improvised everything. There's no way I'd be able to fold it again exactly like this. But I really like the way that one turned out. I also saw on Instagram the username Kanokoya Origami. He made one with a mushroom coming out of the ground. That one was really cool. I'm sure lots of other people have used this base before as well. Now, if you've never designed with box pleating before, I think the easiest way to learn is with Brandon Wong's course. It's right here on YouTube. His channel is called The Plant Psychologist. He has a whole series on design using box pleating. He starts with the basics and then goes over all the different techniques, including level shifters and all the different terminologies. It's an amazing course. Highly recommend it. The other way to learn would be with Robert Lang's book, Origami Design Secrets. There's all the information about box pleating in there and much, much more, but it's going to take a lot longer to go through that book. It's really thick, but it's a great book to have in your collection, so I definitely recommend that one too. Now, just to be able to design with this, you don't have to understand box pleating. You can still come up with some cool stuff, but if you want some of the more intricate and detailed ones, then just learning the absolute basics of box pleating, you can still come up with a ton of different designs. Everything I designed here is with pretty straightforward box pleating. Hopefully that's enough inspiration to get you started. There's so many possibilities with this. Definitely get creative and just explore and try as many things as you can. I'm sure you'll come up with something awesome. I'd love to see what you're able to create, so you can tag me on Instagram at Kevin Hudson Origami. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.